We are recording at this time. We'd like to thank you for joining the Creepin' a Real show. I'll stop talking like a hick now and get my radio voice on. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello there.
Is that my radio voice? I could be Yardley. Hello. Got the smooth voice. I don't even have that at all. Never mind.
Hello, welcome to the Creepin' a Real show.
You just sound like a creepy old man.
I do. I sound like that guy on Family Guy.
Oh, yeah.
The Merv the Perv or whatever his name is.
Yeah. Ugh. No,
anyway, so how is everybody tonight? Are y'all ready to hear some more about the Bell Witch? No? Okay, then turn us off. Thank you. Good night.
You can never turn me off. I'm always on.
I can always tell.
Are we going to introduce ourselves? Or are we just going to start reading stories? Or what's going to happen?
Why introduce us? We all know who we are, right, people? I don't know. I am 2 sips into my vodka and already feel like I've had the whole thing. So this ought to be a good time.
I have an Ace pineapple cider.
Those are my favorite. I've been looking for those everywhere and I can't find them here. What the fuck?
Well, you're in luck because one of my buddies is the distributor for Ace out here and I can send you some.
Please do.
Ace cider's the best. Shout out, homie. I listens, but
love the pineapple one. It is delicious. And I've only had it one time. And ever since, I've been looking where I got it, and I can't find it. I go in other stores and look. Nope, nowhere. It's not there. Why? What's happening?
I should ask their distributor.
It's a conspiracy.
Why that's not happening.
Conspiracy.
Conspiracy against Kristi specifically.
That's right.
They put it back as soon as you leave.
You like Ace apple cider or pineapple cider? Well, then.
It's gone. Not for you. No Ace for you.
Anywho.
So, on that note, welcome to the Creepin' It Real show. I am one of your batshit hosts for the day, Moni, and Miss Kristi is your other one. And if you're tuning in for Yardley, we love him, but too bad because he's not here tonight. So, yeah,
he's not here.
There's no Yardley.
Nope. So y'all probably just want to turn this off now.
Stuck at the mercy of us. We might talk about menstruation or brekkie in the bushes or some shit. So.
Yes. And if you don't know what that means, then you need to go back to our drunk horror story demons episode and learn what brekkie in a bush is.
Yeah, get your shit together, people.
Mm-hmm. So you don't got no news?
I don't have any news. I barely got this show put together. And so, yeah, I mean, I could tell you horror stories from administration of meeting with employees, but I don't think that that's anything relevant to our task today. So
I was hanging out with cows all day. So Moni was nice enough to put part 2 together and help me out a lot. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. What can I say except you've probably never seen Moana because you don't have small children.
I love Moana.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome.
It's one of my favorites.
Last night, she told me, she's like, I was about to put her to bed. I was about to leave the room. She goes, but Mama, we have to restore the heart of Tafiti.
Oh, that's one of my favorite Disneys.
I was like, we'll restore the heart tomorrow. You're going to bed. So, yeah.
Oh, boo, Mom. You're no fun. Uh-oh, I hear them. They're talking about you now.
Ah, shit. I was hoping I couldn't hear them if I had headphones on, but they'll text downstairs so that, the beatings will continue until morale improves. So
great. Well, I'll do, I don't know what episode I am on Mary Ann, the Netflix show that Yardley was talking about and that Stephen King recommended. It's really fucking weird. It's
weird?
So it's good in times, and then other times it is cheesy, but so far it's watchable, and I'm trying to figure out where it's going. I'm probably on episode 4.
That's such a glowing recommendation. It's watchable, y'all.
I don't know yet. It's so the social situations are really different than here because it takes place in another country. Some things I think that's weird, but I think it's because we're different here than that. I don't know if it's French or I think it's French. It is French. And I'm just not quite sure in some things like what like her friendships are real bizarre, and I can't tell if that's a cultural thing or if it's just a really fucking weird show. There's a lot of
Hmm.
scares and a lot of creepy shit that's going on. I'm still
Ooh.
kind of lost as to, I mean, the whole premises is she's a writer and things that she writes are coming true. So I think those things are just now being revealed now. So I've kind of been in the dark as to what the fuck's going on until the show that I had just started but had to turn off because I got tired last night. And I needed a little Frasier to kind of cleanse my palate because I had been watching it for like 4 hours. And I was like, yeah, this is really fucked up. So I turned some Frasier on and watched an episode of Frasier before I went to bed. But yeah, I mean, so far it's good. It's just, it's really weird and it's different. And I like that it's different. It's a different concept. And again, it is dubbed from French to English. So again, there's some bizarre social situations that I'm not quite like, and I can't even put my finger on one example right now, but it was just some of them, some of the situations and conversations. I'm like, huh, that's weird. But I think it, again, just is different, just different way of life. So anyway.
I feel like as someone who spends much of my life in a state of confusion, I'm not sure if I need any more. Also, I texted downstairs to tell the natives to be quiet and
Okay.
was responded with, we will keep it down, but they're watching WWE, my two little girls, you guys.
Nice.
And Brock Lesnar just murdered Rey Mysterio's son. So the girls are cheering loudly about it.
Okay, so by murdered, you mean just like conquered, not like actually killed?
I don't know. I mean, like pretend murdered, probably, but either way, you know,
cool.
The important stuff in life that he teaches our children.
We can't quiet them down for that then. You let them be. You let them celebrate the murder.
Yeah, that's what my kids should totally be doing right now.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to talk about really quick something that crazy that happened today. My husband, I had to rent a huge SUV, even bigger than mine, to fit a tent and stuff from this event I went to this weekend. And I went ahead and just continued the rental through today because I had to go to Tennessee to see baby cows. And on my way home, my husband was like, hey, I'll just pick you up from the rental place. You can just go ahead and return the rental tonight instead of us returning it tomorrow. And I was like, okay, cool. So I park in the rental parking lot and he pulls up and he's on the phone and I'm over here like unpacking the trunk from my rental and loading it into the car. And I'm like, walk up and I'm like, what the hell are you doing, dude? Like I need help. He was on the phone with the police.
Oh no!
He right before he turned into the parking lot to the rental company, there's an intersection right there, and he had a gun pulled on him from another car.
Jesus!
So there was a car driving really erratically, and when it came to a stop, Rick passed it to get into the turning lane and kind of looked in the window to see who the hell is this person driving so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the tent, the windows were up. Rick's windows were up, and the guy's windows were up. So he couldn't see anything and, just kept driving because he was the first person in the turning lane and this person was number 2 in the drive forward lane. So they get their green light and Rick still has a red light and this car pulls up and stops next to Rick and rolls its window down and points a gun at him.
Jesus.
And then drives off. So he had to call the police and file a report. And it was really fucking crazy. So I was like, I would have shit myself. So
yeah.
He pulled a gun on me. He was like, yeah, it was pretty jarring,
jarring.
But, yeah. But he got the tag number and he did file, because the cop came and he gave him all the details and everything. And finally the cop's like, do you want to press charges? And Rick's like, and I'm like, yeah, you do. Otherwise, what the fuck we've been standing here all this time for? And he's like, well, I was just trying to be a good citizen and report it. And I'm like, yeah, but they can't do anything if you don't press charges.
Yeah,
they didn't see it. Yeah, they can't. If they didn't see it, they have to go by.
I wonder what the purpose was. I mean, if they didn't stay to carjack or anything like that, what the point was in the first place?
Just to fuck with them because he was looking in his window like, who's that fucking person driving all crazy?
What an asshole.
Yeah.
Not Rick, but the other
guy. Totally. Yeah, he was...
Jesus.
So that
Welcome
happened.
to Gun Happy America, y'all.
Yeah. So that happened. That was really weird. I think and that's why I keep telling him, I'm like, dude, like, because he's like, for the first time, I wasn't like really over animated about somebody driving like shit. He's like, I
Yeah.
just
Thank
looked
goodness.
over and just to see in the window, like, who's this person? And he's like, I didn't have a look, I wasn't like aggressive. I didn't have my window rolled down, nothing. I was just looking to see who it was and I couldn't see anything. And I just kept driving. And I'm like, this is why I'm always telling you to stop, because like he'll honk at people or
Hmm.
he does the wave, like,
I'm really
hey,
bad
good
about that stuff
job, good
too.
job. And I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, stop.
I'm really bad about that stuff. It's a good reminder.
And I'm like, now aren't you glad? Like, who knows if you would have done your typical asshole shit, what he would have done if he's like already like pointing a gun at you for just looking in his window.
Jesus. Yeah.
And so, anyway, crazy times, but we'll see.
That
They
is
said
not
they'll
fun.
call him because he gave him the tag number and the cop was looking it up and he's like, was I right? Is that the car? Because he explained the car and everything. And the guy's like, I can't tell you. I'm like, well, if
So
they get
that's a
the
yes.
guy, I think we'll know that, yes, this was it.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
stay tuned for our little true crime reality show here
Yay.
of
Yes.
did Ricky remember the plates correctly? So anyway, so that happened. And yeah, and then I came home and showered all the cow shit smell off me and made myself a vodka and peach grapefruit soda.
Lovely. It sounds amazing.
And now we are caught up.
We're caught up. We've caught up since yesterday when we last recorded.
Hey, by the way, sending this out to the universe of people that are listening, I would love some I don't call it fan art, just like art. Like if you've seen our like banners and stuff, I would love to see like a designer or an artist or something recreate and play around with our images and our like themes of our shows and stuff. So if y'all have
I want them to
anything,
paint me like they paint their French
yes,
girls.
like your French girls, like Moni with her hand over her head and her deep heart of the ocean around her neck.
Yes. Something weird. Is she smiling? Is she not smiling? What's she trying to say here? You don't know.
I want y'all to paint me as a demon. I'm like, screw that. I want a demon face.
I like it.
Anyway, yeah, I want to see some fun stuff. I like that. We had a guy who I think he was a listener, did our show art. So I would love to see some more of that. It's fun and it's fun to look at what your interpretation of us is, unless it's like we're like coming out of like a special needs bus or something with helmets.
I'm just a mouth with a pair of tits.
Yeah. With Superwoman boots on.
Yeah, that's actually pretty accurate though. So I mean, can't be mad about it.
All right, y'all. Well, tonight this is a bonus episode, part 2 of The Bell Witch. We did a really long episode, and hopefully by now it's been posted. Y'all have listened to it, and this is kind of a little follow-up thrown out to kind of figure out what the theories are about the Bell Witch. And again, thanks to Moni for hooking us up.
Well, thank me after we decide if this is actually a cohesive podcast. So, yeah, there's a lot to cover with the Bell Witch, as we mentioned on the last episode, and I feel like we didn't have a chance to really get into what it could or could not have been. And unfortunately, in the research I've done, I've come to disbelieve. I wanted to believe so bad, you guys, but I've come to disbelieve that much of this has actually happened, but we'll go through it. So, some more theories. The tale of the Bell Witch has gone to become one of the most well-known hauntings in American history and an iconic historical horror story. But of course, it has left us to debate and speculate if any of it is true, and if so, just what was the Bell Witch? There was a lot of skepticism aimed at the case in recent years, and some of the elements were swiftly debunked. For instance, it has been fairly conclusively shown that Andrew Jackson was never in that area at the time. That's the Andrew Jackson story that we told about his men not believing that they could be scared or harmed by the witch. But it looks like he was well documented in the area, or, his life was well documented by multiple sources at the time. And it doesn't seem like he was anywhere near that area at the time that was said to have taken place. So many other stories, though, have a grain of truth and pick up flourishes and exaggerated elements over the years. So what of the rest of the tale? Is there any truth to it at all? And it depends largely on who you ask. One of the main criticisms as to the veracity of the case is that although there are countless books and articles written on the Bell Witch account, which is not even entirely true, there are 15 books written about it, They are all invariably lead back to one main source, Martin Van Buren Ingram's 1894 book, Authenticated History of the Bell Witch, which is the first real-time written on the case and which was released on a full 75 years after the fact. Ingram was the owner of a local newspaper and based his book on interviews with alleged living witnesses and leaned heavily on the notes of one of John Bell's sons, Richard Bell, who was only 6 years old when the hauntings began and who apparently did not put his experiences to paper until 30 years later. So obviously there's a lot of room for different interpretations with that much removal. It leaves one to wonder just how much was true and how much was warped by time. By the time Ingram received this diary from John's grandson, Alan, every single firsthand witness to the hauntings themselves was long dead, and the actual notes themselves have disappeared, leaving us to wonder if they ever even existed at all, or if it did, whether they may not have been clever or fake or forgery. Adding to this is that Ingram is known to have falsified some of his newspaper article sources, and much of the information he includes in his book is completely untraceable and unable to be corroborated in any way. In the end, we simply don't know how true any of Ingram's book is, and since most other works about Bell rely heavily on this one, it taints them as well. There are very few other reliable resources. Although there are a few, such as Godspeed's History of Tennessee, written in 1886, which describes the case.
So here's some theories of poltergeists.
So I put this in here to kind of talk about what a poltergeist is and isn't. And this is speaking to the theory of possible that Kate Bell was abused by her father, John, what that could have caused. So that's why we have what a poltergeist is and different explanations of that.
So that's Elizabeth Bell. Kate is the ghost.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Natural. I said Lucy on the last show, but I meant Elizabeth as well.
That's another. Yeah.
Yeah, Lucy was the mother, and here. Yeah, so it was like I had confused Lucy because Lucy to me sounds like a little girl's name. I was thinking it was Lucy was the kid and Elizabeth was the mother, so I had switched them. Anyway, okay, if trickery is ruled out, there remain four main theories that have been put forward to explain poltergeist manifestations. Natural explanations. In some cases, phenomena may be explained as misinterpretation of natural events. For example, noises in the walls or cavities of a house may be caused by birds or rodents. Noises and vibrations may also be due to wind, underground water courses, airlocks and plumbing, or earth tremors. Puddles and flooding may be the result of leakages or condensation. Estimates suggest, however, that natural artifacts account for only a very small percentage of reported poltergeist phenomena, less than 2%. Spiritualist explanations. Traditional systems of belief usually assume that poltergeist phenomena are caused by mischievous or malevolent. I can never say that word. Malevolent. I can't say it. Malevolent spirits, ghosts, or demons. In some cases, these spiritual entities are believed to possess the victim. Poltergeist outbreaks are therefore met with fear and with attempts at magical or religious remedies involving ritual, prayer, or exorcism. With the advent of spiritualism movement in the 1840s, poltergeist manifestations came to be understood as attempts by departed souls to communicate with the living, perhaps with the aim of resolving unfinished business or to seek release from an earthbound state. Psychokinetic explanations. Psychokinesis refers to the apparent ability of some individuals to paranormally affect physical processes using mental powers. Because poltergeist phenomena tend to focus around the poltergeist agent, it is suggested that they are caused by spontaneous eruptions of the agent's latent psychokinetic powers. As poltergeist outbreaks are usually associated with high levels of emotional stress, it is also presumed that this may amplify the agent's psychokinetic energies until they eventually explode in the form of poltergeist activity. Psychological and psychiatric explanations. Psychological or psychiatric factors seem to play an important role in the majority of poltergeist cases, often contributing to the stress experienced by the agent. Most poltergeist agents are young children or teenagers who may be struggling to cope with the onset of puberty, with family tensions and other impersonal difficulties, or with physical, verbal, or sexual abuse. In many cases, the poltergeist outbreak is preceded by an identifiable emotional or impersonal crisis. In some cases, the poltergeist agent may be diagnosed as having anxiety disorder, hysterical conversion, or dissociative condition. Multiple personality has also been suggested as a factor in certain cases.
So before you read the next part, I just wanted to, again, and we're going to get into this a little bit more, but what they're saying here in a very shrink speak sort of way, psychiatrists speak, is that someone in the family, especially someone coming to puberty, which would have been Elizabeth or Betsy, the Belle's youngest daughter, there was someone she wanted to marry. That was frowned upon. It's possible, although as we go into this, we can talk about how possible or not, that her father abused her, or at the very least that someone in the family abused her. It's possible that there was just a lot of issues within, tensions between family members that could have caused this. Again, not being able to marry who you want to marry. There's a lot of factors that could have caused a young woman to have, even just being born with any kind of mental illness could have really lent itself to some of the ways that a poltergeist could manifest through a person. So this next portion that Kristi's going to read is basically the likelihood based on this article that this was caused by an actual supernatural entity.
So it says that the agent, of course, is Belle's youngest daughter, Elizabeth Betsy, born 1806. The trigger is unclear. The first manifestation occurred when John Bell shot at a strange creature at the farm. Comments. Several reviewers of this case have suggested the phenomena were a hoax perpetrated by Betsy, her then fiancé Joshua Gardner, or her school teacher Richard Powell, whom she later married. In 1820, John Bell was struck by an unknown illness. He died in December that year, perhaps as a result of poisoning. Soon after the phenomena abated, but according to some accounts, briefly reappeared 7 years later. It says credibility is low, paranormal activity is conceivable but unlikely.
So now we get into some myths about the Bell Witch, and this is put together by Pat Fitzhugh of bellwitch.org, and this is verbatim off of his FAQ section of his website. His website is very informative. He's very well written, and this is Q&A basically of different elements of the Bell Witch story. So, question. Is it true that if you stand in front of a mirror, I had never heard this about Bell Witch, so I just thought it was funny to add. If you stand in front of a mirror, spin around numerous times and say that you hate the Bell Witch, she will appear in the mirror or something bad will happen to you. Answer, and again, this is Pat Fitzhugh speaking. No, not unless you spin too many times and get dizzy like I did and fall. Actually, this myth came from another legend, which you may have heard of this one, Bloody Mary, and was applied to the Bell Witch legend in later years. So that's kind of just a funny one. I had never heard that about Bell Witch. Question, is it true that the Bell Witch came into existence as a result of Betsy Bell's having been physically abused by her father? So this is what we kind of alluded to earlier. Answer, there is no proof that suggests such action took place. Despite the lack of real physical evidence, the abuse theory has been popularized by several books, magazines, and websites, which, in my personal opinion, again, Pat Fitzhugh, are looking for an easy and convenient closure to the legend. The theory that a poltergeist can, in some cases, be evoked by recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis, or mind over matter in an involuntary sense, was developed in large part by Dr. Nandor Fodor, a psychologist. The theory states, in a nutshell, that a poltergeist can be evoked as a result of severe emotional trauma, usually on the part of a teenager with repressed psychokinetic energy. Much emotional trauma was present during the John Bell era, One of the things, though, not just in the Bell family, shared among many people, not just the Bell family. You have to remember the War of 1812 was a factor during this time period. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of, obviously, war. Everyone knew at least one person who was involved, whether it be a cousin, brother, uncle, whatever, was involved in the War of 1812. There were a lot of clashes with Native Americans that ended violently at this time. Mm-hmm. There was a lot going on historically. Life was hard. So that's another reason why a young woman coming of age could have possibly, involuntarily had these kind of fits. Mm-hmm. So let's see. In addition, Kate displayed the characteristics of a poltergeist for only a short time at the beginning of the disturbances. The abuse theory as it pertains to the Bell Witch legend is a speculative and presumptuous statement that has no basis in fact. As a serious researcher for now 30 years, I feel the abuse theory, I just went way past that, is another myth. Where the hell was I? There, it's just another silly Bell Witch myth. I would never recommend otherwise endorse any material based on it unless the material carries a disclaimer with it like the movie An American Haunting does. John Bell was a living human being. He is no longer here to defend himself. He has many descendants alive today. Such a serious accusation against a man who is not alive to defend himself requires proof beyond the shadow of any and all doubt. And my note on this is to say that when we talk about earlier, we said John Bell was poisoned possibly. It sounds like it's also just as possible he had an illness come on and had several ailments. And this might contribute also to the Bell Witch legend that instead of being, dogged by some kind of paranormal entity, that the man had Bell's palsy, undiagnosed and no relation to him as a Bell. But he had a lot of the symptoms now that we now recognize to be Bell's palsy. He also was excommunicated from the Red River Primitive Baptist Church for some arguably shady land business deals, like overcharging on business loan interest and playing loose with the slave trade. He isn't here to defend himself, but he definitely had a lot of conflict, brought a lot of conflict into the home, and, may have been very ill and not poisoned by a witch and, lived in a tenuous time.
Yeah, I guess the thing that's strange about them talking about Bell's palsy, that's not a fatal. My sister-in-law has Bell's palsy. It's just slight. You can't move part of your face. There's no fatality to having Bell palsy. So it's bizarre that they would even try to loop that into his death. I don't know. I just find that strange.
Yeah.
From what again, I have never had it, but it's just basically your partial pieces of your face are paralyzed. There's no death with it. So I don't know why they would try to pull that in. If he wasn't poisoned, that's fine. But talking about Bell's palsy is weird because it's not you don't die from that. So unless they did back then and things are different now, but I can't imagine because I know there's no cure for it. You get it and that's it. Your face is.
But what's interesting is it causes, different facial distortions, and that would go a long way into looking at what you might think of as a witch or a demon possession. And it's also important, and I didn't put it in the notes because I only learned about it kind of after, is that the church practiced a lot of taking demons out of people, and a lot of that was a big subject, even without the Bell Witch. So, this was something that was at the forefront of people's minds as a way to sort of try to, obviously, like everyone has done in the olden days before science was as advanced, is try to explain, superstitions is by saying, well, it was clearly demons or a witch or everyone else.
Cursed. That was the big piece. Everybody, if they didn't like you, if something happened to you bad, it was that you were cursed.
Mm-hmm. And that's basically it, is he had shady business dealings and people were like, that man is clearly cursed.
Yeah. And it was the fact that a woman was involved in one of the business dealings that went bad for him, which was Kate. So they of course attributed her as cursing him, which I don't believe that, but I know that that was the thing. That's how a lot of women died, was if you were accused of cursing somebody just, oh, I heard you don't like this person and now they're ill. You've cursed them. So now you have to go to jail or die or whatever, So yeah, I mean, I can see that. I was strange that they
Real
were,
quickly regarding Bell's palsy, it looks like it's most often brought on by a viral infection, and
mm-hmm,
also herpes can do it. So those
mm-hmm,
are things back in those days that definitely could have
yeah.
killed someone.
Hmm. I don't know how my sister-in-law got it, but she's had it since she was a kid.
Hmm.
So it must have been something viral because I can't imagine like a 10-year-old getting STD. But
Right. Oh, no, no, not her. No, I'm
no, I
sorry.
know.
The
I was
viral
just
infection,
thinking of
but then
her.
also,
Um,
back then, how many people had untreated
oh,
STDs and didn't know what
totally.
that was either.
Had
So,
no idea. They're like pissing blood and going, I've been
yeah,
cursed.
exactly. Exactly.
Anyway, it's an interesting, I mean, I know everybody's got their own opinion about this. I believe that something happened because there were just, to me, I know they're saying that there's no official, like, statements from the people that saw it, but I mean, that's a lot of history's, conversations came from just stories told by voice and not, this, oh, I have everything written down as a statement. So I'm kind of like, for me, it's like where there's smoke, there's fire. I just always tend to go on like, okay, if there's enough people having a conversation about something,
Mhm.
there's something happened. Now, what it is, I don't know. It could have been nothing. It could have just been, I just have a hard time saying that this whole thing was 100% completely made up. Like that
Oh, sure.
just
And
do
there's more
not
theories to come. So, yes,
totally.
for sure.
Anyway, so now it's my turn. So here's another question. Is it true that John Bell and Kate Batts were involved, quote unquote, okay, and had a
Mhm.
falling out that resulted in him killing her and her coming back from the other side to haunt him? That's an interesting question. The answer is no. He says there is no evidence that suggests they were involved. On the contrary, there is abundant evidence suggesting that they would not have been involved. For example, John Bell was married, to Lucy Williams. You can find a reference to this in the last will and testament. Well, we already knew that. And Kate Batts was married, but that doesn't, okay, again, that I get they were married. That's a given. Were they having an affair? Which I'm not saying they were, but I'm just saying, okay, so they were married. That doesn't rule shit out. Anyway,
Hmm.
so North Carolina records reveal that, yes, that she was married. She outlived John and Lucy Bell both. Okay, now this is weird. So when you hear people saying that she cursed him, you always think that she must have been dead when
Hmm.
all this was going on, but she was actually alive. So, how could Miss Batts have come back from the dead and haunted the Bells when she outlived them? In addition, John Bell was at a much higher socioeconomic station than Miss Batts. The state valuation and settlement records clearly attest to this. I mean, okay, I don't see what difference does that fucking make. People had babies with slaves, but I mean, I'm not saying they hooked up. I'm just saying these reasons don't. People had affairs all the time. First of all, second of all, they had affairs with people less than them because that was easier than somebody who was a peer. Anyway, again, I'm not saying they hooked up. I'm just saying his reasoning does. It's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
How many freaking nannies did Jude Law bang? How many did freaking Arnold Schwarzenegger bang? They like hooked up with people lesser than them because it was
Yeah.
easier to keep it a secret as much as they could. Anyway, while this doesn't actually prove they were not involved, thank you. It nevertheless provides strong evidence to that effect. And notwithstanding, Miss Batts outlived John Bell as stated above. I mean, I agree. I don't think she had anything to do with it. Interesting side note, a prominent member of the Red River settlement saw on numerous occasions Miss Batts and Professor Richard Powell making eyes at each other. Oh, well, then that solves it. Talking privately some distance away
Ta-da!
from anyone else. This was passed down through. Maybe she hooked up with a lot of dudes. Get you some, Miss Batts. Get it,
That's right.
girl. Was passed down. Miss Batts, if she wants to fuck the whole army, she can. I will not divulge the source per agreement. Oh, okay, dude. Anyway, I just think that's fun. That whole paragraph cracks me up. Like she could have been getting her some. He could have been getting his some. That doesn't mean anything. I mean, that none of this proves otherwise, but it doesn't make her put a curse on him. If anything, she probably, if they did hook up and she's married, she ain't gonna put a curse on him. Like, she's married too. Like, she's just having fun.
That's
Anyway,
right.
moving on.
Get it, girl.
Yeah, get you some.
Is that me?
Mm-hmm.
That's I was like, is that me?
That's me. I'm sorry. I'm just
Sip it, girl.
still living in the moment of why, what. Anyway,
about getting us some.
Next question. Is it true that Kate Batts and John Bell had a property line dispute that resulted in her putting a curse on him? No. Mary Catherine, or Kate Batts, the wife of Frederick Batts, was believed by many to have been the culprit behind the disturbances known as the Bell Witch. Although not a poor woman, she was often mocked by others throughout the Red River settlement in Robertson County. Her proper usage of words, along with her sometimes strange ways, led many to think she was practicing black magic or other forms of the occult. In other words, she was probably like says what she means what she says, probably wore her hair different than everybody else, and, you know, didn't follow the norms of society, therefore was probably a witch, is what he's saying.
Right?
Yeah, because you're not allowed to live any differently than anybody else, or therefore you're a nasty ass witch.
It's the same reason where did we go? The Winchester lady is like, they're like, oh, she's so spooky. I'm like, she was actually pretty neat and really, really smart. So.
Yeah, she was kind of cool, actually. In the early years of the century, Benjamin Batts, the brother of Frederick Batts, had a dispute with John Bell over the sale of a slave. Facts of the dispute were later tangled and became the source of a rumor to the effect that John Bell and Kate Batts had the quarrel, and the Bell Witch was created by Kate Batts to get revenge on Bell. Poor lady. Can you imagine having to live through all this? And they were actually calling the ghost Kate, and she's alive during all this? That's fucked up. While they were, after reading those stories, I assumed she died, and they thought her ghost was the witch. While there are plenty of stories connecting the Bell Witch to Kate Batts and some sort of disagreement that existed between her and John Bell, recent evidence suggests that she had nothing to do with it. It is clear why some people mistakenly thought the dispute was with Kate. One, they were assuming things, and two, they were not paying attention to detail. Where did the idea of it being a land deal come from? Same answer, assuming things and not paying enough attention to detail, but from a different dispute involving John Bell. John Bell had a little-known land dispute with Josiah Fort, another prominent farmer, around the year 1816. So we should be calling it the Fort Witch, right? Am I right?
The Fort Witch.
What up?
A Fort Witch.
Old Josiah, the Fort Witch, was fucking around. This is also listed in the Red River Baptist Church minutes. However, someone marked the specific details in the original marked through the original details in the original minute book. Confusion between Bell's disputes with Josiah Fort and Benjamin Batts resulted, that's hard to say, in stories that mixed the two and implicated Kate Batts as being the Bell Witch. In fact, contrary to reports of her claiming that she would get even with John Bell on her deathbed, Kate Batts actually outlived John Bell by many years.
Yeah, that's
Poor Kate.
Interesting. Yeah, right? So, question, is it true that Bell's made up the entire Bell Witch thing for the purpose of attracting interest in hopes that the Edgefield and Kentucky Railroad would be built through the area? Answer, no. The railroad was not built through the area until 1858 to 59, nearly 40 years after these disturbances. Question, is it true that there's a curse on all male descendants of John Bell? No, because not all male descendants have experienced misfortune, although I would argue that's kind of like subjective information. But question, a book came out in the 1930s that contained predictions made by the Bell Witch during private discussions. I had heard about this during private discussions with John Bell Jr. in 1828 regarding the past, the present, and future. Did the predictions come true? Answer, no. The discussions and predictions make for a great reading and are incorporated into several modern books, including my own. Again, this is that gentleman talking. Credible evidence that contradicts the discussion prediction aspect of the legend has recently come to light. It has been learned that John Bell Jr. died on April 8, 1862, and not May 8, as many authors and researchers had assumed. Based on the way in which several of the predictions are worded, especially in regard to the Civil War and the date on which John Bell Jr. really died, there is no way that the predictions are valid. Either the Bell Witch erred in her predictions, or the author of the 1930s book made them all up. This author that is talking claims to have a copy of the evidence, a sales receipt of the bill of lading pertaining to John Bell Jr.'s gravestone with his real death of April 8, 1862 listed clearly. This is corroborated in part by a copy of an estate sale poster hanging in the Adams Museum and Archives.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. John Bell Murder by Brian Dunning of Skeptoid.com. We start by looking at the published accounts. There have been so many books written about the Bell Witch that I'm not even going to bother naming all of them. But for their sources, they all draw upon the earliest book, Authenticated History of the Bell Witch from 1894 by Martin Van Buren Ingram, owner of a regional newspaper. This was the first book published about the Bell Witch, and it was published 75 years after the hauntings. That's a long time. Long enough that the author wasn't even born when the hauntings took place. So what's his source? Martin Ingram's book is based entirely upon the handwritten diary of Richard Bell. Richard Bell, one of John Bell's sons, was born in 1811. So he was about 6 years old when the hauntings began. Okay, really quick, I need to address this because when I listened to, I think it was Astonishing Legends, talked about Richard Bell's diary. So Richard Bell sat down with everybody and got their recollections because he was the one that felt like they needed to capture all of this on paper after all of it died down. So he wasn't writing from memory. This is what Astonishing Legend says. Now, who knows, where I don't even remember where they got their information from, but it wasn't like he's like, I remember this like it was yesterday. He actually sat down with his siblings to get their recount of the experiences and sat down with neighbors and stuff because he felt like he was like the historian of the family. He felt like it needed to be captured. So them trying to discredit him because he was 6 years old when it happened, I mean, come on. Anyway, that part really bothers me because it doesn't matter. If he's talking to the firsthand account, people, then he remembers there being discord. He remembers crazy things happening and then getting the details from his family. I mean, that makes sense to me. Anyway. According to Ingram, Richard waited until 1846, more than 30 years, before he actually wrote down the events. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. He recorded his 30-year-old memories. They weren't his memories. They weren't just his memories, but let's move on. Ingram goes on to say that in 1857, Richard gave the diary to his son. Yes, Alan Bell, who was subsequently gave it to Ingram with instructions to keep it private until after the deaths of the immediate family. Now, here's a question. Why would he ask that if these things weren't, for them, true? Like, if they wanted fame or they wanted something out of making up a story, why would they say wait until they're dead? All the immediate family are dead. They didn't want the attention. They didn't want anything. It was just a story they felt like that needed to be told because it happened to me. But anyway, that happened around 1880 when Ingram began writing his book. Conveniently, every person with firsthand knowledge of the Bell Witch hauntings was already dead when Ingram, you can look at this skeptically or you can look at it as they didn't want the attention. They had gone through enough. They didn't feel like dredging up the past. They didn't feel like going through those memories again. And so, anyway, it is what it is. If you want to, they can look at it skeptically. I choose to look at it as they just wanted some fucking peace. Ingram's book also falsified at least one other source. His book claims that in 1849, the Saturday Evening Post ran a story about the Bell Witch, blaming the crazy daughter Elizabeth for everything. and then retracted the story shortly thereafter when she threatened to sue. People have looked for such an article and none was ever found. I called the Saturday Evening Post and was told that their microfilmed archives for that period no longer exist. Researcher Jack Cook went through other microfilms of the Post for several years on either side of 1849 and confirmed that no such article was ever published. Even people looking for it in 1894, following the publication of Ingram's book, failed to find such an article, which cast doubt on Ingram's own ability to have found it. Without exception, all of Ingram's sources for his book were conveniently untraceable. Oh, that's you. I almost kept reading. I'm like, thank God I put you in red.
Good. There's a lot of
Red,
reading on this.
red means stop for me.
Stop, it's a great song. Historians have found only one printed reference to the Bell Witch, which predates the publication of Ingram's book. And it's a one-paragraph blurb in an 1886 first edition of Godspeed's History of Tennessee in its chapter on Robinson County, which reads as follows. A remarkable occurrence which attracted widespread interest was connected with the family of John Bell, who settled near what is now Adams Station about 1804. So great was the excitement that people came from hundreds of miles around to witness the manifestations of what was popularly known as the Bell Witch. The witch was supposed to be some spiritual being having the voice and attributes of a woman. It was invisible to the eye, yet would hold conversation and even shake hands with certain individuals. The freaks it performed were wonderful and seemingly designed to annoy the family. It would take the sugar from the bowls, spill the milk, take the quilts from the beds, slap and pinch the children, and then laugh at all the discomfiture of its victims. At first, it was supposed to be a good spirit, but its subsequent acts, together with the curses with which it supplemented its remarks, proved the contrary. Notice the two most significant events are missing: the witch's murder of John Bell and Andrew Jackson's involvement. No newspapers described either event, no court records or recorded minutes from churches described either event. The story of John Bell's murder at the hands of the witch was never described in any published account, nor placed into pop culture versions of the events by frightened families' reports. It seems almost incredible unless Ingram made it up. Ingram almost certainly made up the entire Andrew Jackson incident. Andrew Jackson's whereabouts between 1814 and 1820 are well documented, and there is no known record of him having visited Robertson County during those years at all. In all of his own writings and in all of his many biographies, there's not a single mention of his alleged Bell Witch adventure. Yeah.
I mean, if he never talked about it, that's fine. But I think when you're talking about a paper saying that they didn't mention in this, in the 1800s, a story, the information wasn't spread like we are, like we can get something in the snap of our fingers.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean every newspaper knew exactly who the comings of going of every house. It's just I don't blame a paper for not talking about every single detail from one house. I just don't. Like, I can't imagine that every single paper or editorial knew if the dude did show up. How would they know? I mean, maybe that was found out later. I don't know. I mean, I would just personally, if he didn't show up, he didn't show up. If that's bullshit, I don't believe every story surrounding the whole thing. I don't believe in the cave thing. I don't believe the cave thing happened. I think that's total BS. I don't know.
Speaking of the cave.
Here I am about to read it. There's a lot of the stories of the experiences of the family I don't necessarily buy, but I think I think something happened. Okay, so the cave. That brings us to the cave, a place that some believe served as a home to the ghost after the Bell's cabin. Even if you don't buy that story, the cave plays a central role in the Bell Witch legend. And really quick, I didn't believe this one because there was no time frame, like, ever. It would never tell you when it happened. It would just say, during the time of the witch hauntings in the home was when this happened. Well, that was over several years. So it was just weird that they never, and I searched because I was like, well, when was this? So I know when to insert it into the story of the Bell Witch, and I couldn't. It just kept saying it was happening during the time of the hauntings, and I'm like, well, that's
Right.
that. I mean, I put it in there because it's such a huge story, but I was still going, yeah, okay. Anyway, um, indeed, it may actually explain part of it. The ground above the cave contains a number of ancient Indian burial mounds, one of which would figure large in the events of 200 years ago. While clearing the land he intended to farm, John Bell reportedly discovered this burial site and was careful to leave the ground undisturbed. Good for him. But as son Richard Williams Bell recounted in his 1846 memoir, Our Family Trouble, that wasn't the end of it. Several days later, Corbin Hall, a young man of the neighborhood, came to our place and was told by Drew, youngest of bellboys, the circumstance of finding the Indian graves. Now, I've never heard of this, the Indian graves. Hall thought the graves probably contained some relics with Indians commonly buried their dead, and proposed to open one and see, to which Drew agreed. They proceeded to disinter the bones. The boys pulled a jawbone from the earth and, in taking into the Bell cabin, managed to dislodge one of the teeth, which fell down in between the floorboards. To this day, some theorize that the ghost was that of a Native American. I don't believe that, but it's an interesting theory. Come to punish the Bells for disturbing his grave. In fact, Powell's book features the ghost itself explaining as much. I am the spirit of a person who was killed close by here and buried, it said. My grave has been disturbed. My bones have been dug up and scattered. One of my teeth was lost under this very house, and I am here to recover it. Regrettably for the Bell family, nobody ever found the tooth. The property, including the cave, is now owned by the Kirby family, who have built a replica of the Bell cabin and charge fees for tours of both. They claim to have paranormal experiences with tour groups. The Kirbys have also grown familiar with guests pocketing rocks they find in the cave and taking them home as souvenirs, only to run into luck so bad they mail the unwanted souvenirs back to Adams. The Kirbys quietly return the rocks to the cave floor. Could this have been some sinister evil spirit, even a demon that had decided to target this family for reasons we may never fathom? Others have variously said that it could have been witchcraft aimed at the family, a vengeful native spirit angry that its burial grounds have been disturbed, a trickster entity from the spirit world, an evil entity conjured up by bats, or even a psychokinetic outburst from one of the family, which would fit into some modern theories on poltergeist phenomenon originating in living people rather than the dead. All right.
Yeah, there you go. And again, you can go visit these areas. The cabin had been torn down, but they've built a replica. And then the cave has become a bigger tourist attraction, though there are fewer stories from the past around it. But the cave they've now actually outfitted with some electricity and a couple of effects for you to be able to go visit it. But it's very interesting. And again, the backdrop being, I know you don't necessarily believe the Native American theory, Kristi, but again, the War of 1812, and that was a factor. Violence between people like the Bell family and the Native Americans was a thing then. So who knows?
I believe in I believe that happens, and I believe that Native American spirits can haunt a property. Every time I've ever seen actual hauntings like this, it hasn't been the type of activity that these people experienced. This sounded like, to me, like either a demon or a poltergeist situation. Now, if the cave is having phenomena, then that would make sense. Like, yes, I could see that being Native American, but when they're having the people witnessing the conversations and the stuff that was happening, I mean, I've seen so many people talking about their experiences with Native American hauntings, and it's like you hear drums. It's a haunting where it's almost like a cultural barrier there because it is like an idiot disturbing sacred ground. It's not like this spirit's having a normal conversation in English and doing the things that this spirit did. It just, to me, doesn't, as far as in the home, doesn't ring to a Native American haunting. But I totally believe in them. And if they did disturb stuff in the cave, then the cave activity, I could see being Native American, but just the whole home experiences, the stories, and I'm not saying they're all true, but even if an eighth of them are, it still doesn't to me sound like a Native American was haunting them. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Just doesn't make sense to me, but
No, I get you.
could be way off. Who knows? I guess when I die, I'll find out the truth about the Bell Witch. But yeah, so I believe it was either a poltergeist or a demon. That's really the only two options that I personally believe. And I know you said you don't believe it happened at all. So that kind of gives us your...
I don't know. I mean, I always did used to believe that, but then the more I looked into it, actually just as of today, it was sort of like, there's a lot of reason to not believe it. And it makes me sad because it's one of the most fun,
right.
Stories that we have of old ghost lore. But I just think there's so much superstition that people had back then. I think there's just a lot of different factors that might have made people think of something, because it's so cool. Like, it's so really like interesting and fascinating that I always tried to find an explanation. And unfortunately, I'm going my husband's route. The only explanation I can find is shit all over it. So,
well, great, shit on it. No, I don't think it was Kate. I don't think it was a witch per se. I don't think that everything happened that they claim. But the way some of the stuff that they're dispelling, I can't take it at their dispelling of it doesn't make sense to me either. Like, if I'm sitting here reading some of this and taking it seriously, it doesn't dispel a lot of it either. Like, it just doesn't to me say that this never happened. Mm-hmm. So I can't say, like, again, if you've got so many people saying it happened and you have these recorded stories, I mean, just because this kid was 6 when it happened doesn't mean it never happened. It just means that they went through all this shit. I mean, the stuff that I went through as a child, I've never written down. I'm thinking about it now. Now I write it down, and are people going to be like, oh, you were 11 when that happened? You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Yeah, I do. You know, I still know what happened. I still can talk to my sister who was older than me and get her stories too. So that means I'm a liar. Like, again, that doesn't dispel what happened. And that's literally, they repeated that several times because he's 6 when it happened. He doesn't know. And, he chose to tell the stories after they died. Like, yeah, I can imagine. They had so much, like, attention and fame from all this. They didn't want to deal with it anymore. They didn't want to fucking talk about it anymore. So they waited until after they died to finally, push the story out again on paper. I totally understand that. So a lot of the ways that they're trying to poo-poo the story actually makes sense to me. So sure. I don't know. It is what it is. I think we all have our own theories, and I'm just kind of explaining why I understand his theories, but they don't change my mind either. I mean, I never went into the Bell Witch story believing that everything that they were talking about happened. I believe, like, something happened. Whatever it was, it was. So that's where we are. And you guys... I
love the story. I'm sorry if I made you sad. I'm glad we covered this.
Oh, I'm not sad. Okay. Totally. You shit on whatever you want to shit on, girl.
I'll shit on what I shit on. It's a fetish thing.
Shit on. Yep, I know. I've been listening to the last podcast on the left, and they were talking about Mormonism, and apparently, what's his name? Shit. The guy.
Was his name Shit also?
Yeah, he had a thing with shit. Like, all he did was talk about poop, and it was really bizarre. And so I think he had like some sort of scat fetish. So the fact that we're talking about this now, I'm like, that's weird. Anyway, Brigham Young. Oh, Brigham Young, also, that's his name. Yes.
Going back to Ace Cider real quick, because I texted the distributor out here, and he says that there was a distribution change in Atlanta, but that you'll be able to find more Ace Cider very soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right at my house, bitch. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, send it right over.
Send them my address. Oh, yes, y'all. Go get some. If you guys can find the pineapple Ace Cider,
that's what I'm drinking. Yay! Yum, yum.
It is so good.
It really is.
It tastes like happiness in a bottle. And I'm pretty sure I posted on my Instagram. I have a picture of a cider on my Instagram from years ago because the first time I had it, I was like, what is this deliciousness? This is amazing.
It's witchcraft. That I believe in.
Mhm.
I think a witch designed a cider, maybe originally.
So good. The pineapple for sure.
A show.
I remember seeing it the first time I ever saw it in the grocery store. It was in the sushi section of the store. So like when you first walk in, there's this huge sushi counter in our grocery store. And it was right in front next to the sushi counter thing where all you get all the little prepackaged sushi. And I was like, what is this? I was so excited.
Magic.
And I took it home and I was like, oh, so good. Now I'm looking on my Instagram.
Drools.
Looking
like
on my
Homer Simpson.
Here it is. Here it is. Ace Pineapple Cider from December 7th, 2016. I said, not the most wintry of drinks, but it's delish.
Put it in my mouth. And in California, it's when, we're one season all the time. So
my mouth's watering just looking at it in my cup. And I have it poured into a frosted mug with ice. So I just made it like the coldest thing ever.
And on that note.
Okay, y'all. So what do we have coming up? You want to talk about what we have coming up here?
Yes. Yardley is having us watch the 1987 film The Gate, which follows two young boys who accidentally release a horde of demons, as one does, from their backyard through a large hole in the ground. And that's exciting.
It's a cute movie. I'm excited to watch it again. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He picked some really good stuff for us, so I'm always excited when it's his turn to choose.
I'm not kidding when I say that I actually was scanning through movies and contemplated watching this one because when you don't have much to watch, for me, I always go towards old horror movies that I've kind of forgotten about that I want to rewatch. And this one popped into my head, and I was like, I want to watch The Gate. I haven't seen that movie in forever. I ended up watching something else. I think because I found Midsummer I could download it. And so I was like, oh, fuck, I've been trying to get this movie for 2 months. So I didn't do it. So the fact that he chose this movie cracks me up because that's so bizarre that I was just thinking about it the other day. But so we're going to do a little review of that. And then, Moni, weren't you talking about something that you wanted to do talking about a reality haunted location that
I'm going.
Are you going to do that?
I think I know what you're talking about. I do a lot of ghost hunting on my own time and all my ample spare time. Not
right.
But I am going to New York Comic-Con. Actually, I'm leaving the day after tomorrow, and we are going to do a private tour of haunted Hell's Kitchen. So I will try to take videos there. I will definitely take some photos. I will share them to our Facebook page, and if I have any experiences, which I hope to, I will definitely be sharing that as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited. And also, Creepers, I don't know if this will drop in time. Maybe I'll be at New York at the time that you hear this. But if you have any experiences, a lot of these Comic-Cons have things for horror fans. So if you've heard of anything cool going on at New York Comic-Con or around New York Comic-Con during the next week or so, feel free to message us on our Facebook page or hit me up and let me know what I need to be doing so that I can come back and report on it for y'all.
Yes, please do.
I'm so excited. They have weather in New York, you guys. There's going to be fall, and I got to actually check a bag because I'm going to actually have layers to wear. It's going to be amazing.
Wow, that's exciting.
What are your socials, girlfriend?
My socials are Creepin' at Kristi on Instagram and at Creepin_it on Twitter.
Nice. I am Moni Bear across the board, and I should probably put some kids to bed, feed some kids, maybe not in that order, although feeding them spaghetti in bed sounds like a good idea, and pack some shit. So I'm probably going to do that.
Go pack some shit. And also, y'all, hey, if you're thinking about it, please give us a good review on iTunes or whatever platform you're listening on. It would be wonderful to combat all the people that get angry with us because we curse. Apparently, the whole warning these people cuss before you're reading or listening to the podcast
It's
isn't
a
enough.
horror
Yeah.
podcast. I don't know who's here looking for good, clean fun. Oh, Kristi, real quick, I watched the newest Godzilla film,
Uh-huh.
and one of the reviews, literally the top review right now, I think it's on IMDb, was like, this movie has too much cussing. If you can't make a
What?
monster film without all the cursing, you shouldn't be making movies. And I was
Whatever.
laughing. It was a Christian, reviewer, which that's fine. But I was laughing because I was like, do you really imagine yourself being in a situation where you're either seeing or about to get eaten by large monster or monsters, and you not saying, oh, fuck, I'm about to die. Like
Oh,
that's just not,
golly
you're not going to go like,
gosh.
oh, golly gee shucks, there's a, flying creature about to eat me. Like, I don't think that's how you behave.
Maybe if you're Flanders.
And I also just love America, where we're just like, no sex, no two people being in love, no cussing, but all the violence in the world is fine.
Yeah, well, don't even get me started, girl.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
well, we get a lot of bitching because we cuss and because we make sexual innuendos. So,
You get bitchy
anybody,
because of the sexual innuendos?
well, they could bitch. Everybody bitches about everything. Can't make
Oh my God,
everybody
suck
happy.
off.
My opinion is I've listened to podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts because I'm on the road a lot. And hey, you know what I do when I listen to a podcast and I don't like it? I turn it off and I listen to the next podcast.
You know what I do when I see a post on the internets that I don't like?
You scroll through it.
Scrolly.
You know what I do? I crush my phone and I scream in rage.
Yeah.
And I tear my entire house apart because I will not be ignored, and I will not ignore. I'm just kidding.
I write strongly worded letters and poor reviews just to make people feel bad because they said one naughty word.
I get it. Like, if you don't like it, hey, move on with your bad self. But, you damage people when you make bitching about things like that are ridiculous like that. If we offend you, then by all means, leave a bad review. But you don't like that we say fuck, then don't listen to the fucking show.
Every television show, every podcast, every radio show has a voice and a slant.
Yeah.
And ours happens to be silliness, some horror, some history, some facts, and a lot of fucking cussing and sexual innuendos. So
yes, especially from Moni. Moni says sexual innuendos in every sentence. She can figure out how to put a penis in there.
All I heard was how to put a penis in there.
Exactly. Anyway, just kidding. We're both awful, dirty-minded whores. So,
and you like it. You secretly you're like, I don't like it because girls talk dirty. Because really, you love it.
Thank God Yardley's not on here. He would be like banging his face into his desk right now, silently screaming. With that, we will bid you guys an adieu. We literally just spent 6 minutes saying goodbye and bitching about bad reviews. So you're welcome. Thank you. Welcome to the Creepin' It Real show. All right, y'all. Enjoy your holidays. We will be in touch. If you guys have any suggestions or great stories to share with us, please reach out. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.